If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard with you. Over the next 3 hours, we are live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. We are loaded to the gills today. Coming up this hour, I'll give you my first NFL alternate win total bet that I made yesterday. That's in about 20 minutes. Miki Sudo is going to be on the show in a half an hour.
Yes.
How pumped are you for this?
Very excited.
9-time Nathan's hot dog eating champion.
Yep.
And did it again on Tuesday. A lot to ask her about. Coming up at that time, we'll preview the Jets in 45 minutes. On top of that, we will begin today some Major League Baseball, Paulie, as so much is going on in this sport as we get ready for the All-Star break. The last games to be played before the break gets here is on Sunday. And last night, for the first time this year, the Diamondbacks were swept in a 3-game series. They've lost 4 in a row. That is their first 4-game losing streak of the entire year. It was the first time they were shut out. They got blanked by Carlos Carrasco, who was in horrendous form. 9-0 final score. But to top it off, the worst news imaginable was that Corbin Carroll, who was a monstrous favorite to win the National League Rookie of the Year, had to leave the game because he had right shoulder discomfort. Remember, he had a problem with that shoulder in recent weeks as well. Now, it's the same shoulder that he had surgery on a couple of years ago. They did examine him last night quickly, and their team there said that he does have strength in the right shoulder. He should be okay. We'll find out more later on today with the MRI. But, I mean, how many times do you see a Rookie of the Year where he is the odds-on favorite to the point of where books are putting up field bets? It was Corbin Carroll against the field at DraftKings for a good probably week to 10 days, and you could have gobbled up every single other, contender in the National League at like 3-1 or plus 350. And now DraftKings and every other book I looked at today, rightfully so, they pulled it off the board. They don't know what's going to happen here.
Also in the MVP discussion. Yes, you're right. And we talked about earlier in the week, this is the time to jump in and bet the Dodgers to win the division. Dodgers aren't even playing well. They're a half game back now.
Right.
So Arizona leaking oil. You got to be concerned. Maybe he's not out that long, but they're certainly struggling. And it just feels like, okay, the Dodgers are going to win this. And so you saw what happened with that market with Carroll. And then there was a 35-cent move yesterday on the Dodgers to win the division at DraftKings. They're still like 180, 185. But you're seeing $2, $2.10 at other spots, too, on the Dodgers to win the division now. Because also this coincides with a bit of a funk that the Giants are in.
Right. So right. Yeah, you could have had the Dodgers at a really good price earlier in the week.
And they should be in first place already. I mean, they couldn't beat Kansas City this past weekend, and they lost to the Pirates the other day, too. So,
well, I'll give you this, too. We had Derek Carty on the show on Tuesday, who has, he runs all the projections, the bat, which is popular in the fantasy world and beyond. He gave out on that show on Tuesday, he said Diamondbacks to miss the playoffs, one of his bets. Now today, I'm looking, the no on that is plus 150. That is definitely shifted. And the two teams now, suddenly, they play each other this weekend.
Huge, yes.
Making a push. Imagine if one... Okay, so the Mets now, yes to make is plus 340. Padres, yes, plus 330.
Yeah, if someone sweeps there, very interesting. Just even if someone takes 2 out of 3, though, because both teams playing well. So you're still 6.5 back, but that's the other thing. The Phillies keep winning. The Reds keep winning. I mean, this is wild how this is happening. And even though the Mets and Padres are playing good ball, they're not really gaining ground because the Marlins are playing so well. The Phillies are playing so well. Milwaukee is right there now, although they lost a couple games to the Cubs. But and then the Reds on this 22-6 run, whatever it is, what the Reds are doing. So at least these teams have a chance now, and they're finally playing up to expectations. But still, they have a lot of work to do.
Are you doing anything in that division?
Which one?
in the National League Central?
Yeah, I was taking Milwaukee. Yeah, Milwaukee plus price.
Yeah, I did.
I'd like to. I like to see it, but I don't think the Reds can keep this up.
Yeah, neither do I. And I was looking last night again to get a refresher on some of the injuries that they have. For example, Hunter Green, who left the game, hip soreness a couple of weeks back. They're expecting him back maybe early August, best case scenario. And Nick Lodolo probably won't be back until August as well. Like, I don't understand how the pitching is going to be able to maintain. They can't outscore teams like 8-6 every single game. That's going to be unsustainable, although they just somehow, some way with Elly De La Cruz, this is why it's so interesting. Like, if you shop around today and somehow, some way you see a National League Rookie of the Year market offered, you have to take some today on Elly De La Cruz. You just have to on principle alone, even if Corbin's going to be okay. But this is how big it is tonight. I mean, Abbott takes on Burns. Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but who do you trust more right now between those two pitchers?
Abbott. Abbott hasn't had a bad start yet.
I kind of agree with that.
He just made a couple mistakes against Colorado when he had a big lead. That's it.
Yep.
That's all he's done. He's been untouchable the whole year.
It gets dicey, I would say, for both teams after tonight, although Burns has been completely I give up. I give up on him. I've given up on the Brewers. I made the case yesterday. Peralta stinks. He was awesome yesterday, which is okay. I mean, that can happen. But Burns is basically impossible to figure out this year. Then on Saturday, it's Weaver versus Ray. That's exactly who you want in a pennant race. And then Sunday, it's Lively versus Teheran.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. Should be plenty of runs. Imagine if the Reds sweep them going into the break.
Please.
They have a 5-game lead. Also, the timing with the draft that we have with the blackjack tournament. Huh? This is wild.
This is why it's so great, by the way.
Derek Stevens agrees with me. I said, absolutely, the Reds are getting drafted.
Well, what if they get swept?
Well, that's a wrench. That's a problem.
Okay. See, this is the beauty of this racket, right?
Yeah.
I grew up a Brewers fan, and my dad would have us like circle a game on the calendar. He had his sister lived in Milwaukee, so we'd make like the 4-hour drive to Milwaukee every summer, and we could circle the week that we wanted to go watch the Brewers host. We do it every single summer. That was my team growing up. Well, now that I have a ticket on the Reds at 100-1 to win this division, I hope the Brewers lose every game for the rest of the year. What do I care?
Yeah. You're cooking. You are cooking there. And remember, the next 6 games are head-to-head against each other. And
then they get 3 more later on in the month.
I'll give you 2 other ones. You got to take Wheeler and the Phillies. I mean, you have to, the way Sandy's been going, but this is ridiculous. The Phillies have won 12 in a row on the road, and they just swept Tampa? Oh. Come on. And they're not even hitting.
Yeah.
So here's another team that's going to go in this draft and how dangerous this Philly team can be, what they're doing. And then, to me, you have to take this, I don't know if you want the side, but there's going to be runs in this Braves game.
Oh, I'm surprised at the total.
I can't believe it's 8.5. Atlanta's on a 25-5 run. They're hitting 307, 74 home runs, and scoring almost 7 runs per game.
Yeah. Is Glasnow going to shut him down?
No, you can't shut Atlanta down. No way.
And probably another run in the first inning in that game, too, because it's the Braves, and that's exactly what they do.
I believe Tampa home dogs for the first time all year as well. So, but these great card tonight. Great matchups.
Yep, I'll give you another one, too, because it happened again yesterday. And I like what the Rangers did by going out and grabbing Chapman recently. They need to make more moves. They need to make more moves stat.
Yeah, here comes Houston. Yeah.
Well, this team is in some serious trouble. But also, in terms of in-play wagering, you saw it coming from a mile away yesterday. Eovaldi, they were giving him some runs, but he was cracking a little bit throughout that game. And then once they went to the pen, it's like the Red Sox are going to stop scoring. And they eventually turned into a small favorite when it was 5-4. But the Rangers' bullpen is so bad in games like that. I think you got to take a peek with the in-play on the other team.
Yeah.
I laid $1.25 with the Red Sox in-play going against that pen because I thought they were going to explode, and it happened within like 30 seconds.
Yeah. I think you should take some Houston to win that division. You might be late, but they're only 2 back, and Texas struggling now. But Valdez is going to go tomorrow. They pushed him back. Who knows? I'm dismissing Seattle. Maybe Seattle's got a pretty good team. And Castillo goes tonight.
Well, remember,
I can't say. I guess I can't bury Seattle, but I still think dealing with all these injuries and once they get everyone back and they're healthy, Houston's going to pass Texas and win that division. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe Seattle comes up there too, past Texas. But I've been a believer all year, but now still get a little bit worried with the Rangers.
I think so too. And as I've said over and over and over again, forget about the bullpen for a second. They have to add a starter.
Yeah, but you got to get healthy right now. You're taking on the Nationals. The Nationals have lost 14 of their last 15 home games.
Yeah, they get a break here because that's
you got to sweep them.
Yeah, that's the the set that they get this weekend. And meanwhile, the Astros are getting the Mariners, who can be tricky because they've underachieved pretty much the entire year. But It's a great weekend going into the break. A lot of big matchups that we have. Rodon makes his return for the Yankees.
Tonight.
He's much needed. You saw what happened to Severino last night. And by the way, to tie it in with the Rays and their struggles here recently, don't look now, the Orioles are 4 back. They're 4 games back of the Rays.
Underdogs today in Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't. Who knows what happens here this weekend? But that number could get trimmed before the break. And you've asked me now for a while about the Rays in this draft that we're having. I'm not. I'll just flat out tell you, there's not a chance I would touch the Rays.
Yeah.
I don't think if I'm picking 12th in the draft next week, I don't know if the Rays are on the board. I might look somewhere else.
Yeah. How does Zach Gallen not go over his outs prop tonight too? It is plus money. Zach Gallen won't go 7 strong tonight against the Pirates. Since throughout the last 2 home starts, which he was great in one of them. But remember, he was 10-1 with an ERA and WHIP under 1. 12 start. No one done that to Walter Johnson since 1970.
All right.
This guy won't go 7 strong. You get over 18.5 outs plus 120 tonight.
Pirates played late game last night against the Dodgers, so they make that move to Arizona tonight to play that game as well.
I mean, he had 1 bad inning against Tampa. That's been it for like 15 starts, his last 15 home starts.
Right.
And that they touched him up in the second, and that was it. That's all he allowed. But that's also Tampa. They're number 1 and number 2 in almost every key offensive category.
Yeah, and don't forget, Alek Manoah returns today for the Blue Jays.
Right. That's
their favorite against the Tigers. So but keep in mind, the Blue Jays also played a very lengthy doubleheader yesterday.
Oh.
The first game went to, and you got details on that coming up, but that first game took forever. But by the way, Barrios,
I know.
Don't look now. His numbers
Lance
have
Lynn
been
too. Yeah, but you're right about Barrios. But that whole game was each team had 1 hit through 7.
Yep.
Lance Lynn had a ton of strikeouts, but yeah, Barrios has been awesome.
Yeah, somehow he's got his highest K rate. Like this is the best stretch ever for him striking out batters now. He's in the middle of that as we speak. Up next, win some, lose some. More on a nearly horrific beat in that first game of a doubleheader. And I'll tell you about the first alternate win total bet that I made last night. It pays plus 185. The schedule is absolutely nuts. And as for the talent, yikes. Details coming up here on VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
It's always football season here at VSiN. We just released our NFL betting guide. Get ahead of the upcoming season. In-depth profiles of every team. Best bets on win totals, futures, and props. Become a subscriber today for as low as $19. Get the newly released betting guide or take advantage of the summer kickoff special. Get access to everything we do through the Super Bowl for only $175. Sign up today. VSiN.com/subscribe.
Paulie, it's an absolute honor and pleasure to welcome in the first guest of today's program. It is now the 9-time Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Champion, Miki Sudo, who is proudly displaying her belt here via Skype this morning. Congratulations, champ. How do you feel today?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I feel great. Coming out, I don't like for Nathan's week to end.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What have you eaten?
Bet.
Like, what's the most amount of food you've eaten since Tuesday?
So I love fresh fruit. So I was enjoying like peaches and nectarines right from the food carts in New York. Probably the first meal that I had was my regular kale salad back at home.
Okay. So you did mention this after the contest was over with on Tuesday during the post-eating interview that you had, and you were mentioning about what played a factor in it. You changed your technique during the competition on Tuesday. Can I just, and you've done this for a long time now, you've won it 9 straight, and I'll tie in a little bit here with Joey Jaws as well, because he only ate, I say only, 62. And you guys, there's no history here of competitive eating, right? Like, we all know as NFL fans, like a running back hits a wall at 30 years old, like that's pretty much it. Eventually, a quarterback's not going to be good anymore. At what point does the actual competitive eater, like in you, how do you know, like, I might not be my prime anymore?
I mean, I alluded to that in my exit interview, right? When Renee asked me what happened, I said, maybe I'm just 10 years older than I was when I first started. And I say that just jokingly, because when you look at some of the top placements, Joey's a couple years older than me, and his body's been through so much. Jeff Esper is a good deal older than me, and he's still an incredibly strong competitor. So in terms of age, I don't see that slowing me down anytime soon. It's still fun. I still have a lot to give.
Were the conditions an issue?
Yeah, I mean, the conditions always play a factor, but I start to sound like Goldilocks because if it's too hot, then the buns dry out. If it's too cold, then the hot dogs, tighten up. You do have that sweet spot, but I mean, as a competitor, you just really have to show up ready for anything. And on the guys' side, they just had to work with the weather delay. I mean, that played a factor in their event too, which if you have Nick on, he can tell you all about it. On the women's side, I hate to admit it, I was more distracted by Mayoi beside me. I never focus on my other competitors. And when I do, I know that it's a bad sign. But what was different about this year is for a decade now, I've been able to study my competition. You have to qualify in order to earn a spot at the final table, right? So I know what people have to, what they're bringing.
Okay.
And even if you have an invitation, you typically have YouTube content out that would kind of tip me off as to what you can do. I had no clue. I knew she was going to be a threat. I just didn't know how much, and it was unsettling for me.
Yeah, that's why I think you're going to be fine based on what you said, because you made that mistake of being distracted and focusing on her and not focusing on your hot dogs. And next thing you know, we got a fight here with a minute left.
It was, honestly, I mean, as a competitor, I think it's great. I got to win. Somebody pushed me.
Yeah.
She'll definitely be pushing me because I can guarantee you 40 is not going to be enough to win next year. So it's just going to make the sport better. And I think from a spectator's point of view, how exciting was that? I mean, I knew the outcome and it was like a nail biter watching back. But yeah, I never want to be focused on her. Now I know that what she has to offer. She was a fighter from start to finish, and I have such an amount of respect for Mayoi.
So think about that. Here you were going in, 8-time defending champ, and it was a learning lesson for you, which can be great, and you can have a takeaway from that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And you'll never make that mistake again.
Yeah, I mean, switching my technique back and forth, I think what I need to do is I need to take the tougher of the two techniques and just do it better. I go back to the basics. The years that I did the best, I did the most practices. And I think I've rested a lot on my natural ability because genetically, some people just have advantages. And it's hard for me to pinpoint. Somebody with a stronger background in science might be able to pinpoint this, but I've rested a lot on what I bring naturally to the table. And I have probably taken the gas off when it comes to practice. Just going back to the basics and, grabbing Michelle Lesko and doing practices is probably going to get my numbers up. Yeah.
And as a, champion, and you're going to have that inner, competitiveness where you never want to lose and you're going to have a bunch of pride. But how important is it, like, to get pushed like you were getting pushed on Tuesday rather than like it's a runaway and you might get bored 8 minutes in?
Oh, I mean, it was next year, I'm going to have to use that to my advantage. Unfortunately, this year, being flushed, I allowed it to fluster me. And I made some really careless mistakes early on. I kind of alluded to this in the exit interview, but I swallowed air because I was flustered. I made mistakes on the dunking timing. I dunked some buns for too long. Some were barely touching water. The first 2 minutes were like a trial and error and a lot of mistakes. So next year, instead of being thrown off by Mayoi's presence, I'm just going to allow that to fuel me.
How do you train? Do you go to Costco with Nick, your fiance, and buy 500 hot dogs and buns? And do people
not 500 at a time, but they come in bags of 40. We get them directly from a larger source. But we just grab the Nathan's Naturally Cased competition regulation hot dogs. Buns is close to bun's the same gram as what we'll eat on stage. It's hard to get the exact bun, but that's one part of my training. And that one, I have to say, I dropped the ball on that this year. I still did practices, but I don't think I really pushed myself. I only cooked up, say, 40. And I said to myself, how quickly can I eat these? Instead of just cooking up 50 and saying, I'm finishing these in 10 minutes. My practices were a little bit underwhelming, probably. But that's just one part. The other part is getting my endurance levels up in the gym. So I do a lot of cardio so that I can exert all that energy in the New York heat. And then the third part is studying tapes, watching where things went wrong and fine-tuning my technique.
How big are your grocery bills?
Honestly, on a regular basis, our fridge is incredibly healthy and boring. Like I mentioned, my first normal meal was back to my regular kale salad. So a lot of fresh produce, lean proteins, chicken, fruits, and vegetables don't cost that much. So.
Okay. Well, we used to live in Las Vegas before you relocated. Would you go to buffets and unleash hell? I mean, I can't imagine. They go, okay, well, no big deal. She comes in. How many plates you put down? I mean, they probably freak out when they see you coming in.
Yeah. So I was still back in college when I lived in Summerlin. So I went to the Red Rock Casino back when I want to say breakfast was like literally $4.99.
Yeah, right.
And you can't beat that.
No.
So yeah. So when I was in college, I went to the Red Rock a lot, and later on, I moved towards Green Valley Ranch. So I went to that station's casino buffet, and I'm so sad that COVID kind of took that away from Vegas.
Yes.
A lot changed, and I feel like those things, if you didn't get to take advantage of them back then, you missed out.
Is this your biggest accomplishment? To win 9 times, I'm sure that with the Nathans, but just looking at your resume, is there something else where you're like, I can't believe I did that from a competitive eating standpoint? I can't believe you did 13 pints of ice cream in 6 minutes.
Actually, it's 16.5.
Oh, 16, sorry.
So over 2 gallons, which is that's hard to even imagine. But I think my most impressive, accomplishment over the last decade is a little bit cheesy. But so I was here for my 10th year, but I only have 9 belts because I was 36 weeks pregnant with Max in 2021. So I mean, meeting the love of my life, having a baby who's like the best thing in my world. All because of competitive eating. And in the year that I didn't get to compete, I got to serve as a guest commentator alongside ESPN's Mike Golic Jr. So it's just, those are 3 things like that I never imagined would have happened. So
how did you feel after 109 hard-boiled eggs in 8 minutes? I can't even look at a hard-boiled egg.
Oh.
Yeah, hard-boiled eggs definitely have a weird place in my life now. So that contest was fun. It was a torrential downpour in, I think it was Kentucky. So I was cold, I was full. It was just a weird experience, but so much fun. But also Nick proposed to me after eating hard-boiled eggs in a short form contest. So it's just hard-boiled eggs have this weird, I can never look at them the same.
How about the birthday cake and the turkey that you were at Foxwoods? So with the, how much is the, I mean, you gotta have a dry mouth, I would think, with if the water could help. Are you dunking the turkey too?
No. I mean, that was another great contest. I hope they come back. I hope we can do that contest again. So for people who didn't get to watch, we were served an entire Thanksgiving turkey that was weighed before and after. So it was all done. All of our wing and rib contests are done like that too. They're done by displacement to make them incredibly fair. I just had a better technique than Joey Chestnut that day. I think because I eat we break down a lot of chickens in this house. So I think I just had a more efficient technique.
Very cool. Well, you're a great sport, an awesome, obviously, athlete and competitor. Congratulations on going here now back to back 9 times in a row here, winning Nathans. You did it again on Tuesday. And you can follow Mickey on Twitter or Instagram as well. OMG, it's Mickey on all of them. Thanks so much for the time. We appreciate that.
Of course. Thanks for having me. We'll talk again next year.
You got it.
By the way, like the backdrop here again today.
Yes.
Look at that. I mean, it's for those of you in the radio audience. She's holding the current belt, and you could see 6 of the other mustard belts behind her. So that's
how many bites of ice cream before you get the headache?
Again, she did the math on that. It's more than 2 gallons. I can't do a bowl. One bowl of ice cream. I'm done.
God.
We will preview the New York Jets coming up next here on VSiN.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. It is Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard. We are live today, downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Starting this hour, talking some Major League Baseball, and Kevin Rogers joins the program with Vegas Insider. He has done a great job tracking K-props throughout the entire year and has some dynamite first 5 numbers you're going to want to hear about here in a couple of minutes as well. Kevin, thanks for the time today. How are you?
Guys, good to talk to you again.
Yep. What really stands out now? We have the All-Star, 3 more games coming up here before the break. What really stands out to you? You've tracked every pitcher, every team the entire year with the K-props. Like, for example, the guys who are the best overall at striking out pitchers on the year and lead the league in Ks, how have they done with their props?
Well, when you look at the top 5 pitchers in baseball as far as strikeouts, forget about their props, just straight up numbers. Spencer Strider of the Braves, Kevin Gausman of the Blue Jays, Pablo Lopez of the Twins, Shohei Ohtani of the Angels, and Mitch Keller of the Pirates. Only 2 of those guys have been really good with their overs, which is Lopez, who has hit the over in 13 of his 18 starts, And Mitch Keller, same thing. He's 13-5 on his K props on the over. Shohei Ohtani, for as great as he is, his K props, really, he doesn't hit the over that often. I mean, it's like 50-50, 17 starts, 9 unders, 8 overs, so nothing great with him. Spencer Strider, it's unfair with him because he has the highest K props all the time. It's always 8.5, 9.5. And to be 10-7 is actually pretty impressive for him on that. But as far as those guys go, you don't want to look for Spencer Strider every night, be like, oh, he's going to strike out a bunch of guys because they've already moved that number up, where there are times he has 9.5 Ks and he ends up with 9 strikeouts, which is a great night, but he still doesn't hit his over.
Sure. How about guys on the other side? Verlander is going tonight. I was looking at a lot of his numbers for today's game against Darvish. Anything stick out with Justin Verlander?
What's so funny, Mitch, is that he has 11 starts this season. He's hit the under 9 times in his 11 starts, and his total's actually at 5.5 tonight, and it's juiced to the under. But for Justin Verlander, again, he was hurt, remember, early on, and it took him some time to get back. And he's been a bit up and down. I don't want to say he's been a complete disappointment. He's had some okay starts. But for that number to be 9-2 to the under is pretty interesting for him. But also, I think on some of those, he's been burned on, 5.5 of 5 strikeouts. So it's not exactly like he's getting 1 or 2 strikeouts a game. But it's interesting that a guy like that he is not hitting his over props.
What do you want to do in this Braves-Rays game? And you have incredible numbers on Atlanta, but as we know, Atlanta's been a freight train here going back the last 30 games, but they're averaging almost 7 runs per game. What do you have on Atlanta first 5 during the stretch? And also, what do you want to do with Morton props?
Paul, when you look at Atlanta, I mean, you talk about a machine. It's unbelievable what they've done. 17-2-4 the last 23 games in the first 5 innings, and one of those losses, if you remember, Paul, was that Reds game, opener.
Yeah.
They were up 5-0 out of the chute, and they were up 7-5 in the 5th, and then they trailed 9-7, so that was one of the losses. But 7 in the past 8 games, they have scored 4 or more in the first 5. They had that 4-run spot against Cleveland in that second game against Bieber where they were getting shut down and then exploded in the 5th. And what's funny about Atlanta is the last 11 games, they are 9-0-2 in the first 5 innings. So they're just unbelievable right now. And you mentioned Charlie Morton also, Paul. 5-0 to the over on his last 5 strikeout props on the road. And in 4 of those, he's had 7 or more strikeouts. So Charlie Morton on the road has actually been a very good pitcher to back as far as the strikeout props. And he faces a Tampa Bay team that went through a stretch earlier this season with a ton of unders. And now they've kind of regressed back a little bit. And, you guys talked about them getting swept by the Phillies, that they're not really at great form right now. So there's probably a good opportunity here for Charlie Morton against Tampa Bay tonight.
All right, very good. It's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Kevin Rogers from Vegas Insider. The Brewers have been struggling this year at the plate striking out, specifically against lefties, and they get a good one tonight in Abbott for the Reds. Overall, though, what have you noticed with this team, maybe full game or for the first 5 against lefties?
The first 5, Mitch, for Milwaukee, 5-16-7 against left-handed pitchers in the first 5 innings. So when you do the math there, what is that? 28 games, 5 times they've led after the 5th inning against left-handed pitchers. And actually, it was one of the games against the Cubs that let me just pull this up really quick. One of the games against, it was against Pittsburgh. It was against Rich Hill on Sunday, excuse me. It was that game that the Pirates were up 2-0 in that one, and the Brewers came back and led 3-2. So that was almost another loss for them. But for the most part, though, against Justin Steele the other day, they only scored 1 run. They trailed Drew Smiley 6-0 out of the chute in the game. They actually came back and won back a few days ago. They won 8-6. But they just had these problems against left-handed pitchers. And now you get Abbott tonight, who has been a strikeout machine himself. And you guys talked about the Reds and just what they've done this season. But Milwaukee's also playing a little bit better. Let's see what you get from Corbin Burns tonight. He's so hit or miss. Burns actually pitched well against the Reds from a strikeout perspective last time. That was a game Milwaukee won an extra innings last month, but I believe he had 7 strikeouts in that game. So that should be a pretty interesting game. And also Cincinnati off of the sweep of Washington, who we know is not great. Now let's see what they do when they step up in competition.
No question. I'm looking right now, by the way, at the teams with the highest K rates against left-handed pitching. the Brewers are still number one overall. They strike out 27.6% of the time against lefties overall. What else today that might be interesting to you with the first five, or any first five pitchers that really jump off the page?
One guy, Mitch, that I feel like I've been fading this year, or noticed this one, is Luis Castillo of the Mariners, and they've continued that series in Houston. He's 0-3-3 on the road this year in the first five. So 6 starts, the Mariners have not led after the first 5 when Luis Castillo takes the mound, and he's a short dog against Houston this afternoon. I mentioned the Braves a little bit earlier when we talked about the Braves. As far as their run, they are not the hottest team in baseball in the first 5, which is amazing. They're 9-0-2. They're not the hottest team. Guess who is? The New York Mets. 12 straight games they have not trailed after the first 5 innings. So the Mets got the sweep in Arizona. They are playing well right now. I know they dug themselves that big hole, but they are playing well, at least at the moment. They have this big series with the Padres this weekend. We'll see what Verlander can do. And also, one more note, guys. I want to go back to the Mets. Carlos Carrasco now 6-1-1 in the first 5 in his last 8 starts. He actually has not been that bad halfway through the game, but also even Alek Manoah, who gets to start for Toronto tonight. We know he's been shelled this whole season. He's 1-7-5 in the first 5 innings this year. So once they've led in 13 starts, but the only time they led came against the Tigers back earlier in the season, and they're in Detroit tonight. I don't know if that means anything, but we'll see if he gets back on track.
I did notice that the Tigers team total today is 3.5. At some shops, it's like minus 145 earlier this morning. That's interesting because also, don't forget, the Blue Jays played in that lengthy doubleheader yesterday, and the bullpen could be absolutely taxed. I'm also looking at what you have the Phillies at 18-5-4 in their last 27 games. That's for the first 5.
Yep. Yeah, they have been unbelievable. And look, this is not an accident. I mean, you win 12 straight road games. I mean, that's not an accident at all. I mean, they've been playing so well, and they got up to that really rough start out of the gate. Remember, they got blown out at Texas, and they didn't play well against the Yankees. And you kind of said, oh, well, maybe the Phillies, maybe that last year's run to the World Series was a bit of a sham. But, for the most part, in this run the Phillies have been on in the first 5 innings, remember they had that 19-run output against the Nationals last weekend. A couple of the games, they got shut out in one game by the A's, 1-0, but they ended up winning that game in extra innings. They lost another one to the Nationals. They were down 2-1. But they've been scoring runs, the Phillies, and their pitching has turned it around, which has been big because you have Aaron Nola is a quality pitcher. Zach Wheeler is a quality pitcher. Taijuan Walker actually has pitched well of late, too, for the Phillies. And now they're getting it together. And that race in the East, it kind of stinks that Atlanta has really jumped out of the pack because the Marlins have played well. The Phillies have played well. The Mets are playing a little bit better now, but it feels like no one's going to catch Atlanta. But Philadelphia, though, they have put themselves in a nice spot. And when you jump out early, at least you don't have to worry about your bullpen if you get these leads. And that's what the Phillies have done.
Yeah, and it's no mistake, by the way. So the most amount of Ks overall on the year by team, Minnesota 487, KC 485. Those two teams, the opposing pitchers are also like 48, 37, and 5 to the over against Minnesota. KC is 47 and 40 when opposing pitchers take on the Royals lineup. That's no accident either.
No, it's not. And what's funny about Minnesota is just on the flip side, early on, their pitchers were getting a lot of overs to begin the season, with Lopez and with Joe Ryan. Those guys were doing really well, but the offense, they just swing away. And actually, of late, it's been kind of up and down for Minnesota, that they've had a lot of over-unders that have kind of gone like each other game. So they really haven't been that much of an over machine of late. But also one other, I guess, positive note on the Twins going to a first 5, they've now had 6 straight that they have led after the first 5 innings, and their pitching is turning it around of late. So now Minnesota's playing a little bit better, but those numbers, they just came out of the gate with a bunch of strikeouts, and now because they just had so many early, it feels like that they're a team that you have to keep an eye out for. But really, of late, it's just been really up and down with them, so I wouldn't go automatically going over on a pitcher that's facing the Twins, because now those numbers have kind of leveled off a little bit.
Very cool. Great numbers. Kevin Rogers, Vegas Insider. Follow him on Twitter. He is at VI Rogers. Thanks, pal. We appreciate the time. Have a great weekend.
Mitch, Paul, thank you so much as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. So he mentions that Morton might be worth a look tonight. the way that he's been going on the road lately. Wheeler again 4-1 over his K-prop last 5. And he pointed out that Justin Verlander's 9-2 under on the year, but his numbers are coming really close. So you might want to tread lightly with something like that.
How about the Braves? 17-2-4 first 5, and one of the losers was 5-0 in the first?
Yep.
My God.
Up next, we had some pretty significant news in Major League Baseball late last night. We'll tie it in by asking about a prop number for midseason awards next here on VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Great menu as always at DraftKings. Summer League tonight. UFC card this weekend. Golf, great MLB card. Download the app today. New customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonuses instantly. Use promo code VSiN when you sign up. DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Full terms and conditions.
UFC 290 is set for tomorrow. It's a doozy of a card. And Jordan Sherwood does a great job with MMA. Fat Jack Sports, co-host of the Unnamed MMA podcast at ESPN in Chicago. Jordan, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. Before the break, I was pointing out that it's Robbie Lawler's last fight ever. And this guy, I mean, his fight with McDonald is going to go into the Hall of Fame this weekend. He's a fan favorite. He's a legend. Every fight is tremendous for the most part. And this one with Nico Price, again, has bloodbath written all over it. So that said, do you have an approach here to betting it, or are you just going to sit back and enjoy it?
I think probably sitting back and enjoying it. I'm not seeing a lot of value on either side. And the reason is because as much as I'd love for it to be a storybook ending for Robbie Lawler to go out with a victory in his last fight, I mean, he's lost 5 of his last 6 fights. He's been finished in 2 of those 5 losses, the last one against Brian Barberena. And Nico Price is a high-volume striker, an unorthodox striker that's got good cardio. And Robbie Lawler at least got his success with being able to kind of go into those firefights, outlast his opponent, and then finish him. He just doesn't have that cardio or that chin anymore. The one thing I worry about if you say, okay, I like Nico Price, he's going to win the fight, is Nico Price is kind of a fun guy. He respects Robbie Lawler, and he's been in fights before where he could have probably finished opponents, but he chose not to. He chose to kind of like take it easy. And I cite the Donald Cowboy Cerrone fight that ended up being a split draw that he should have went out there and finished him. So I think if you need to play this fight, you obviously pick Nico Price. You put him into your parlay. But it's most likely, sit back and relax, enjoy, have an old-fashioned, and just reflect back on Robbie Lawler and the fantastic career he had.
All right, you're getting very creative here with what you want to do in the main event. Volkanovski 25-2. Record, he's 350 favorite, and how do you want to attack the main event with the favorite and also with the round prop?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, I think Volkanovski is going to prove once again he's one of the greatest 145ers we've ever seen, maybe the best we've ever seen. And just his all-around game is going to cause some issues for Yair Rodriguez, in particular the power and the wrestling. I mean, Yair Rodriguez deserves to be here. He's a very good challenger. He'll present body kicks and head kicks a little bit differently than Volkanovski's ever been used to. But the value here is Volkanovski in the later rounds. And I've seen lately trending, you're able to get these big-time favorites at good value, even at plus money, if you say they're going to win the fight and couple it with fight starts round 4, fight starts round 5. And if you look at it, Volkanovski via decision is slightly at plus money, but you could also, couple that with start round 4, start round 5, and do well. Because I think Volkanovski wins the fight, but I think Yair Rodriguez is tough enough, is game enough to not be finished. He's a guy that's had a lot of firefights himself.
Okay.
Hasn't been finished, and I don't see it happening. Volkanovski gets his hand raised, but via decision.
All right, very good. Now, how about Bo Nickel, the biggest favorite in UFC history? He's as high as 2,500. The under, a round and a half, under minus $4. I mean, is there any chance his opponent can survive the first round? Because Nickel by submission in round 2 is 9-1.
I mean, look, he's a regional champion, his opponent, and look, credit to him taking this fight on short notice. He looks to be in shape, but I've heard from reliable sources he struggles with takedowns. Mm-hmm. Bo Nickel's an All-American NCAA wrestling champion. He's been spoon-fed these type of opponents to build up his resume. I mean, look, there's a reason why he's on the main card and Robbie Lawler is not, because they want people to pay attention to Bo Nickel. So you got to get creative. And look, even submission round 1 win is not good value. So I think you really got to get creative and find like Bo Nickal in the first 2 minutes of the fight to win. I think he's not going to mess around on the feet. He's going to look to take this fight immediately to the ground and get his opponent out of there. It's your prototypical squash match as we used to see in the WWF. I like to joke, but that's what we have here. Bo Nickal is going to get a takedown early and finish the fight, and I think he will in the first couple of minutes of the fight.
Wow.
Man.
Okay, so get creative there, Paul. That's going to be like the goal in the first period
Yes.
in the NHL or first attempt prop in NCAA. Can you find that at a lot of spots? Like,
I think you can. Yeah, I think you can. Like at Bet Rivers and FanDuel and stuff like that. It usually doesn't come out till day of the fights or weigh-ins. Maybe today, later this afternoon. But yeah, you can find it. And they add value to it to play it because it likely doesn't happen. But in this particular case, Bo Nickal is that special an opponent. This is a guy that's going to feed right into his strengths. So that's why I think you got to play it.
So do you have any interest at all in because our producer Luke brought this up before the show, and he loves betting the UFC. He loves the sport. He was intrigued by 9-1 on Nickal by sub in the second round, but you're thinking this guy, his opponent, has no chance to get out of the first round.
I don't think so. Again, I've heard that he struggles with takedown defense, and he's also taking this fight on 4 days' notice. So he hasn't been preparing his takedown defense for a typical fight week camp, 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, I don't like that play. But hey, it's as you were just saying, something to cheer for, something to look forward to if you think he can survive. But I don't think he does.
DK has it. He's plus 275 to win in the first minute. He's plus 330 to win between 2 minutes into the fight.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. I think, look, yeah, maybe there's a feeling out process 30 seconds into the fight. And then that second minute is value. Maybe I'll play that. That's
all right. One. What do you think of Turner in his fight? Turner, 250 in that range against Hooker.
Yeah, I think Jalen Turner gained a lot of credit with his last loss. He was supposed to fight Dan Hooker. Hooker had to pull out. Martiz Gamrot won the fight via split decision. I think Jalen Turner learned a lot from that fight. Dan Hooker's chin is gone. Look, he's been in firefights himself, but he's not the same fighter as he once was. And he's a guy who gets touched up. And Jalen Turner's so unorthodox, so long, so lean, and powerful for the lightweight division. I think that the value is Jalen Turner's going to win this fight because he's now been preparing 16 weeks for Dan Hooker, and he's going to touch his chin at some point. So Turner to win via TKO or KO at plus money, I think is the play. Dan Hooker's just not the same fighter, despite the fact, look, he's training side by side with Volkanovski. That certainly helps an opponent leading in. But I think Jalen Turner is special. He's a tough fighter to prepare for at lightweight, and he's going to knock out Dan Hooker at some point in the fight.
All right. How about another flyweight title bout? Brandon Moreno is fighting. He's laying in the neighborhood of $1.95. The round prop here is 4.5. Do you expect this fight to go to the cards?
I think we likely will, just because, again, Moreno's favored. He's really come up since the last time that they fought, which is several years ago. And, finally Moreno getting past Deiveson Figueiredo. He's got the wrestling. He's got the scrambling ability to not be too threatened by Pantoja's submissions. But here's the thing. I mean, Pantoja's a killer, and he walks right forward to people, gets into the fire. He's got power. So I think I'm going to play a small play on Pantoja just because I think he might be Moreno's boogeyman, already 2 wins over him during their career. But I think probably the smarter play is a live bet this fight. See what the first round looks like. Who's establishing what? Is Moreno establishing his jab, which is going to be the better of the two on the stand-up? And then maybe Moreno, you play him into the later rounds. Because as the fight goes, it favors Moreno. If this gets into the championship rounds, I think Moreno will get his hand raised.
All right. Overall, top to bottom, how do you grade the card going into it? Solid?
Yeah, It's a great card. I mean, International Fight Week's always a solid one. I mean, we didn't even talk about DDP and Robert Whittaker, a middleweight title eliminator fight that's going to be bonkers for as long as that fight goes. And obviously, we talked about some of the other fights on the card, and it's, I think, 14 fights. So we're in for a doozy on Saturday night. But again, I think you got to find value on those heavy favorites. So Bo Nickal in the first 2 minutes of the fight, Volkanovski to win, and round 4 to start. Kind of my recommendations, my favorite plays for tomorrow.
Great job. Good to talk to you again. Enjoy your summer.
All right, fellas. Talk to you soon.
Well done. This is crazy. I mean, so Nickal is minus $2 to submit him in round 1. So everyone you talk to, just the guy's a tomato can, you'll take him down immediately and submit him. But still, you're looking, that's $2, but him to win's $2,500. And in his previous 3 fights, it's been, what did you say, Luke? Like 2 minutes in, he takes the guy down, submits him, and that's it. But then you
I'll
look
get
at
4
it
days rest, and I mean, you're not hearing a positive word spoken about the other guy.
But then if somehow he survives the first round and he takes him out immediately in round 2 or at any point in round 2, that's 9-1. But it just figures this guy won't even last 3 minutes against him. And then you can do the first 90. The first minute is plus 275, and then plus 330 if the guy lasts 2 minutes. But this, my God.
By the way, you can follow Jordan on Twitter. He is at Woodon ESPN 1000. And again, the podcast is called the Unnamed MMA Podcast. Jordan Sherwood was our guest breaking down all the fights here moments ago. I just, the prelims alone, when they had to put Robbie Lawler on the prelims, you got to pay attention to that fight. The guys, I mean, again, he did a great breakdown of that fight. Probably don't want to bet him. Not in great form. Last fight ever. Maybe he goes out a hero here. But in terms of overall entertainment, you get your money's worth every single time, and he's on the prelims for this guy. So it's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We'll discuss some alt totals in the NFL coming up next, and we'll kick around the discussion of what's more likely to happen for these teams to maybe go over at a nice plus price or to go under, as they so often come in this way in the NFL. That's coming up next here on VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Great odds boost and promos always at DraftKings. Get the app today. New customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonuses instantly. Use promo code VSiN when you sign up. DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Full terms and conditions. Get up there.
A preview of the New York Jets here. Dan Leberfeld joins the program. Jets Confidential magazine. He's on Twitter at Jets Whispers. Dan, thanks for the time today. How you doing?
I believe he's from Minnesota, but he sounds like he's from Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah, yes, that's correct. He is from Minnesota. He's got the fake New York accent, though.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm from the neighboring state of Wisconsin. So I've watched Aaron Rodgers like everybody has, for the last 15 years. And I could buy into both sides of the argument here with him this year. Although I want to remind people, for those who think that last year was like the true Rodgers that we're going to get for the rest of his career, no matter how long he plays, I will remind people that he was not good a couple of years ago. This was before the pandemic year when they went out and drafted Jordan Love. He came back and said, okay, you're going to draft my replacement? Well, then watch this. And he went on to win 2 consecutive MVPs, and he was incredible before falling off a little bit last year. Which side of the fence are you on? Are you expecting a big year this year from Rodgers?
Yes, I am. I think that one of the things that clearly hurt Rodgers and the Packers last year was the fact that Rodgers didn't participate in the off-season workout program aside from the mandatory minicamp. And with those 2 draft picks that they had at receiver who didn't come from Power 5 conferences, so they probably needed even more work. He didn't get to work with them in the off-season, and you saw right out of the gate that offense was not a well-oiled machine, and it probably hurt that he missed the offseason. He was so into the Jets offseason program, aside from the couple practices he missed when he tweaked his calf. I mean, he was out there working with Garrett Wilson and all the other targets and really getting on the same page. So I think that is a huge factor as far as all the work he did after the trade in the offseason program.
Okay, very good. I'm looking overall. I ran down all of the unit rankings, and I used Pro Football Focus in their numbers. So it's one site. I get it. So it's not the be-all, end-all. But they ranked as a group the Jets wide receivers 20th overall. And I scratched my head. I'm like, well, wait a second here. Garrett Wilson kind of exploded as a rookie. I mean, he was the rookie of the year after all. And he did it with those quarterbacks. And now he gets to work with Rodgers. And they brought in Lazard, who obviously knows Rodgers very well. To me, I think the wide receivers are much better than 20th. What say you?
Yeah, I don't understand those kind of rankings. I mean, we're talking about something that is kind of new here, aside from Lazard. Obviously, Cobb came in as well, but I don't know how they rank things when you're trying to figure out how a new quarterback's going to fit in with a new team and a lot of new targets. in a new city. So that stuff is kind of out there. But I think he and Garrett Wilson are going to be prolific. You're watching in the spring, they're already in a groove. Garrett Wilson is such a unique talent. He's one of those 5-star receivers that came out of high school that lived up to being a 5-star receiver. Just speed, quickness, amazing short area, transitional quickness to cut away from defensive backs consistently, good hands, very hard worker. I mean, this guy had 83 catches last year with a revolving door at quarterback. Can you imagine what he's going to do with Rodgers? So I don't think there'll be any issues when you look at Wilson and then Lazard, who obviously has that chemistry built in with Rodgers.
What do you think of the offensive line if they can hold up and protect Rodgers?
Well, the key is that it is obviously Mekhi Becton staying healthy and also buying into playing right tackle. He is clearly not happy with it, and he's complained a little bit on social media in the spring about it, but they have Dwayne Brown, the longtime NFL veteran, played for Seattle and Houston and the Jets last year, has only played left tackle. You can ask a guy at 37 to move to the right side. So Mekhi Becton could be a very good right tackle, but is his heart into it. But you know what? He really doesn't have a choice but to play great this year because he's in a contract year. They didn't pick up his 50-year option, so he can mope about it. But the only one he's going to hurt is himself if he doesn't stay out there and play great. So I think in the interior's got a lot of talent. So I think the line is going to be fine as long as Becton stays healthy and buys into the right tackle position.
What's your biggest concern for this team?
The biggest concern is on defense. I think people are overrating what they did last year. Yes, they were much better than the year before, but the year before they were historically bad. They could only go up. And during that 6-game losing streak at the end of the season, they couldn't stop the run. And one of the problems is they like to go with those smaller, quicker defensive linemen, which is great if the linemen beat the offensive guards and centers on the interior at defensive tackle I'm talking about with the quickness. But if they don't, they get Velcro to blocks, and the Jets gave up a lot of big runs up the middle right at their defensive tackle. So they did sign Al Woods, the massive nose tackle from Seattle, to help out there. So they need to stop the run better. They also need to cover tight ends better. This AFC East all of a sudden has become a very good tight end division, with Kincaid and Knox in Buffalo and Gesicki and Hunter Henry in New England. Jets need to cover tight ends better and stop the run better. Those are two things to keep an eye on.
Very good. Interesting. I would have thought you thought the issues were going to be with the O-line. So 12 years without making the playoffs. The win total is 9.5. Do the Jets make the playoffs?
Obviously the division is going to be very challenging. However, we all know last year everybody said the NFC West was going to be a juggernaut with all those quarterbacks, and it was a disaster. So you just don't know. You say on paper it looks great, but who knows what's going to happen in this division? I think Rodgers is highly motivated. Watching him spin it in the spring on the practice field, he looks like he still got it. He wants to prove the Packers wrong, and he also wants to rebound from last year, which was kind of an embarrassing season for him, going 8-9 with the Packers last year. So I think they make the playoffs, yeah.
What happens to his status as a quarterback in that area? And has followed the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest Dan Leberfeld covers the Jets for Jets Confidential magazine. This team, as Paul just said, I mean they're not a playoff team on a perennial basis. I mean, getting back to the Super Bowl, every time we bring that up, people from that area, Dan, they laugh at us and say, "Come on, I've been a lifelong Jets fan. It's not going to happen." Where does Rodgers go in terms of overall status in that area as an athlete, as a sports figure, if he were to lead this team just to a Super Bowl appearance?
It would be huge. But you know what? A big angle you hear about is how will Rodgers deal with this market. This market is very overrated as far as toughness. And it really is not. I mean, I think he'll to answer your question, it'll be amazing for him and, and all the marketing opportunities, and it'll be the toast of the town and all that. But it's not as tough as people think it is. First of all, it's spread out. You got the baseball going on at the same time. It's not like Green Bay where everything's focused on one team. The interest is spread around here. And I'm in these press conferences with the Jets. I don't see it as such a tough market. The questions aren't that tough.
Okay.
So this idea about handling the market, I think he'll handle the market fine. And I think go back to your question, if he does great and they go to the playoffs and all that, he'll be the toast of the town for sure.
Dan, 90 seconds left here. If you told the team that they were going to be 3-3 facing that gauntlet going into the bye week, would they sign up for that?
I think so, yeah. That's a great point about the opening part of the schedule. The league office did them no favors. When you have a new quarterback and a lot of new pieces, the last thing you want is the toughest part of your schedule at the beginning. Yeah, so I would say 3-3 and getting on the same page, and then maybe they can go on a roll after that, after the tough part of the schedule.
Great job, Dan. Thanks for a few minutes. Good luck.
Anytime, guys. Have a good one.
Very good. How about that answer? The defense. Now, they did 5 of the 7 wins were against backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, they got fortunate there for sure.
But that was, wow.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so
I would have to say, if you ask me, how does this go sideways? It would be O-line issues, or it just Hackett doesn't work out with Hackett.
Well, I think that can absolutely be one of the things. But also, again, I will bring this up because Pro Football Focus, they have a lot of content, right? And they do sit there and they watch and they grade every single player of every single team. I think the receivers are better than 20th. I mean, I totally did, Dan. I mean, I think that's way too low.
That's music to my ears with what he said about Wilson. I mean,
exactly right.
He has a monster year.
So they rank the defensive line 14th overall and linebackers 19th. So the secondary is number 1 according to the rankings. That would make sense. They were so good last year and saw the beginning of an amazing career the way it appears. But so it's kind of like Denver's defense then. Their secondary is absolutely elite, but the other parts are like, I'm not so sure about it.
Yeah, maybe they're an over team. I mean, with those weapons and now the huge upgrade at the quarterback position and you get Hall healthy, I mean, that could be too. But,
what a game out of the gates.
Yeah. Oh, huge Monday night. That's awesome.
That's such a great job by the NFL putting that game on Monday night. After all of this, we can't wait for football to come back like every single year. And we get the Thursday night game all day Sunday. And then, by the way, one more Week 1 game on Monday night, Jets-Bills. I like the Jets, by the way, to win the game. In-pocket plays, what we're betting today and moving forward, coming up next year. And Follow the Money, it's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.